So please stay tuned. Hello everybody. This is Paul Newman, and if you are seeing this screen, I am hoping to assure you here that the live stream will start very soon. So please stay tuned. Hello everybody. This is Paul Newman, and if you are seeing this screen, I am hoping to assure you here that the live stream will start very soon. So please stay tuned. Hello everybody. This is Paul Newman, and if you are seeing this screen, I am hoping to assure you here that the live stream will start very soon. So please stay tuned. Hello everybody. This is Paul Newman, and if you are seeing this screen, I am hoping to assure you here that the live stream will start very soon. So please stay tuned. Hello everybody. This is Paul Newman, and if you are seeing this screen, I am hoping to assure you here that the live stream will start very soon. So please stay tuned. Hello everybody. This is Paul Newman, and if you are seeing this screen, I am hoping to assure you here that the live stream will start very soon. So please stay tuned. Hello everybody. This is Paul Newman, and if you are seeing this screen, I am hoping to assure you here that the live stream will start very soon. So please stay tuned. Hello everybody. This is Paul Newman, and if you are seeing this screen, I am hoping to assure you here. Hello everybody, and welcome back to some more Cheltenham 2024 content on my own personal YouTube channel. Good morning everybody. Well, good afternoon. Yep, still good morning. 9 minutes past 11. I'll give everybody a minute or two just to join the stream, those who wish to, and I will try and bang on for a minute or so, probably about yesterday's racing. Why not? Some very disappointing runs from horses that I identified 3 years ago, it's fair to say. It's safe to say that my ability to identify horses has certainly improved over the last 3 years if the performances of Facile Vega and Sir Gerhard are anything to go by. Yesterday, my old mate James de Burley, I thought he ran all right again. To be fair, he was bang there at the last in what is always a very competitive handicap. I said before the race, really, that I did think that maybe they could have the horse in the wrong race. And I do think that rather than his stamina giving out at the end, I think he was just a bit outpaced over the last. He was in the top 3 or 4 or 5 jumping the last. But unfortunately, a few passed him. But he was the top weight in the race as well. A proper weight carrying performance. And he was just a bit short of a place on the day. But I do think he didn't really disgrace himself. The highlight of the day really surely has to be my old mate Protectorat, who obliged with his first Cheltenham Festival victory in the Grade 1 chase, the Ryanair chase. I thought once he got near the front, coming to the end of the race, just like Steve Allpress alluded to actually in his preview yesterday, he was always going, I think, to come out on top, a guaranteed stayer over the 3-mile trip. Protectorat, and he ran very well. We've got to touch on the Mares' Novice Hurdle, really, and the first defeat of the career of Brighter Days Ahead, which to me was very disappointing. I think it was clear there, really, that the conditions of the race have done the mare, really. The penalty that she gained for winning those listed and Group 3 races earlier in the season, and she just failed to repel the Jeremy Scott-trained Golden Hornside mare, who, to be fair to her, stayed on very well and she travelled well at the end. But I do honestly think that people would see a different outcome off level weights in that race. And a little shout out for Birdie or Bust as well, who defied the penalty to secure a Grade 2 place she managed to finish third. And I do think that Birdie or Bust ran well also. Right, I'm going to start the today's coverage now that we've just finished playing out on the Reprieve Media CIC YouTube channel. It's myself and my good friend, co-host and colleague Steve Allpress, and our preview of what is really a blue ribbon day of the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. I'm talking, of course, about the 2024 Cheltenham Gold Cup. So once that is started, I will be turning off the camera and my microphone and allowing you all to enjoy the content. And I will be back at the end to wrap up things in the usual fashion. But for now, you'll see it's already queued in the background and all ready to start. It's just a matter of me starting the content. So that is what I will do now. I will be back later. Take care, everybody, and enjoy the Reprieve Media CIC Double Handful 24 coverage of the fourth day of the Cheltenham Festival, starting with Steve Allpress's preview of the first race of the day, the Triumph Hurdle.
So, we're going to wrap up the week. It's been a tremendous week. I've had lots of fun. Highlight for me, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, was Ballyburn in the Gallagher Novices Hurdle. Factor File impressed me massively. Lossiemouth put in a huge performance. Slade Steel put in a very good performance in the Supreme. I thought Mystical Power, the runner-up, ran with credit. So yeah, we've had some good horses run this week, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the final day, and yeah, be back next year. Was his main one for the Triumph, and he would be hoping that he wouldn't need any more. I thought that was something in itself, really. That was a pointer in itself, just to indicate what he thought of the horse. He went to Kempton the day after Boxing Day, it was, in the Christmas meeting, and he was pretty impressive on the day. A lot of people crubbed his jump in that day, but I thought he jumped relatively well throughout the race. It was only the last couple of flights where maybe a little bit of inexperience and just getting lonely when going to the front. So for me, that wasn't an issue. He then went to Cheltenham for Trials Day, where he met Burdett Road, another horse that was highly touted and looked good earlier in the season. Obviously, he's not here for the Triumph Hurdle due to a setback, but Sir Gino put him away very well on that occasion, powered up the hill, and obviously ever since then he's been very short price for this race. Obviously there's been a massive cloud over the Nicky Henderson stable in recent weeks, even more so this week. His horses as a whole have run really poorly. Only really Lucia has ran a proper race, and all his others have been very disappointing. As a result, there's Nicky Henderson's even pulled out several of his horses already throughout this week, the likes of John Bon, Shishkin, just to name two of them. So it's anyone's guess what Sir Gino's going to turn up. Hopefully he won't be effective and he can bring his A game, but it is a big question mark. As where I was confident a couple of weeks ago, I have started to get a little bit edgy over him now. I'm just, if the stable's not firing, the stable's not firing. If it could have an impact, it really can. You're not going to know until he runs, but obviously you're either with him or you're not. But based on what I saw earlier in the season at Kempton and Cheltenham, he's definitely the one to beat in this race. Whether he goes on and wins or not, who knows? But he's a good horse, and whatever happens here in the Triumph Hurdle, I'm sure he's one to keep on side going forward into next season, where he could potentially be going novice chasing. We'll just have to wait and see how it pans out. But Sergino, terrific chance if he's fit and well. Of the others, obviously, Willie Mullins is multi-handed in here. He's got the likes of Cargeese that won at DRF. Nice mare. She was very impressive that day. Travelled smoothly, quickened well. They were in a bit of a bunch at the finish, but she could be improving. She's an each-way player for sure. Stormheart, who she just got the better of on that occasion, he had a bit of a bad passage through that day. Didn't jump the best. Was wide on the outside throughout. And, I don't think there's too much between the two of those. Him and her pretty similar. You could put a blanket over a few of these. Paul Townend's obviously opted to ride him over several of the others, which might be a pointer in itself. But, he's also got an each-way chance. The one horse, obviously, that hadn't had a run, that went into DRF and ran a cracking race, was Matt Marlborough. And that's the mount of Mark Walsh, again, for Willie Mullins. That horse was on the front end of the race for quite a lot of the way. And he kept battling on well. And, he's a big horse that could be future chaser himself. But he's one that could run a big race. Big talking horse in the race, not been seen this season, straight into the Triumph. Salvatore Mundi, second to Sergino in France. Come over with a big reputation, but yet to be seen. Massive ask on its first hurdle start over here. I think he's up against it myself. If he was to win, he must be pretty special. But for me, he's one I'd probably be just bypassing. I was interested in him and did have a little anti-post bet on him at the very beginning of the season, but obviously him not running wouldn't be something that appeals to me really. I've obviously gone off him because of that reason. Bunting's ran a couple of good races, one easy on debut, fourth in DRF, not beaten too far. Again, could be thereabouts. Away from the Willie Mullins horses, I think Salva's a decent animal. Really does want that soft surface. That's the Gary Moore horse with Gavin Sheehan on board. Salva looked very, very impressive early in the season on soft ground. Not so impressive last time, but still got the job done relatively well. But again, as I said, that horse wants real soft ground. And, if lightly soft ground on the day, so that'll benefit. And, each way player, I do think it's got a fair bit to find, but it's a good horse. And, there's any amount of improvement in it. But yeah, I think that wraps up really the Triumph for me. I do think it's all about Sergino, but it's all based around whether he's right or not. If not, I'd probably go for Cargeese. But again, as I said before, in DRF, there wasn't much between 3 or 4 of them in there, which suggests to me that they might not be a standout horse in Ireland for this year's juvenile. Therefore, I'm going to stick with Sergino, but I don't have quite the confidence that I did have, not based on the horse's ability, but more so the stable form. On actual ability alone, I think Sergino's head and shoulders above these. But again, until he runs, we're just not going to know. But he'll be my selection anyway. We've got to stick with him. I've been with him from the very beginning, so I can't desert him now. Sergino is my selection for the JCB Triumph Hurdle.
Fantastic, Steve. Thank you very much for previewing the opening race on the final day, Gold Cup Day of the 2024 Cheltenham Festival, the 4-year-old hurdle race of the festival, the Triumph Hurdle. And rather like you, I think it's very disappointing that the favourite, Nicky Henderson, trained Sergino, isn't taking his place. You alluded to him in your preview quite heavily. The winner of the Prix Wild Monarch in France has come to England and made a seamless transition to hurdling, and it would have been fantastic to see him take his opportunity. But I do think it's quite an interesting race nonetheless. I've actually got 2 that I've identified turning up. I'm going to take a look at a couple of the others, though, before then. I noticed Madgeborough. I looked at him when he raced in Ireland on his second start. He finished 3rd. To me, I don't really fancy that one. I don't really like the stallion in jumps racing is strange, isn't it? Martinborough. And he's actually very related to Majala, the old Tom George horse that used to go round. Mighty Bandit, I suppose, is interesting. He's one of the horses from the dispersal sale that has moved from Ireland to England. But again, I've looked at that one before. He's from the family of Akilak. I don't know if people remember that one. It actually was fancied in the Triumph for the year. 4-year-old hurdler that Howard Johnson used to have. One owned by Alan Shearer, among other people. I remember it quite well, actually. But to me, Akilak weren't really that good in the end. And I don't really fancy this one either, really. Mighty Bandit. Salvador Mundi is interesting, I think, to me. I mean, he was second behind Sergino in the pre-Wild Monarch. You know, a very interesting horse, I think. Obviously, his first run in English company, and it'll be asking a lot, I think. But the form is there, isn't it? He's just had no runs to acclimatise to the English style of racing. But there are horses that have in the pedigree that are quite closely related to him that have raced in England in the past. Unique, Alan King's horse, was rated 147 at her best. And she's bred a horse called the Friday Man, trained by Gordon Elliott. That's rated 140. Sanglot as well was 133, trained by Owen Griffin. You know, so there is some that have raced in England in the past. There would be worse. It's a bit like when Pete Dory came to England. He went straight for the Triumph on his first start. And me and Steve had a similar conversation. Steve was right on that day. Pete Dory was well and truly stuffed. But he's acclimatised well, the horse. Pete Dory in the end, isn't he? And now look at him thriving. So it can be done. It might just need a bit more time with Salvador Mundi. Storm Heart. Well, if you fancy Sergino, I remember saying at the time, Storm Heart is from the same dam line as Sergino. So maybe you're not looking at these horses as closely as possible if you're all over Sergino and you've missed Storm Heart. To me, that one has to enter equations as well. The two I've identified, the first one, and I'm a bit disappointed it's turned up, really. Peking Opera. To me, that would probably be the outsider of the lot. It's from the family of US Navy flag, I think. The Stallion. And to me, he had a heavy fall last time out in the Adonis hurdle. It really did. I really did think it had a tough, crunching fall. It was well beat that day behind Khalif de Burley. No, it's from the family of Air Force Blue, sorry. Not US Navy flag. The family of Air Force Blue. To me, I'm disappointed that he's turned up. He obviously has got it all to do on the form. He's actually rated higher on the flat than he is over hurdles at the moment, which isn't really what you want heading into this sort of race. But to me, he takes his chance for connections, and the same connections are also responsible for the other horse I've identified in the race, Salva. I think this one goes there with a very live chance. He won the Grade 2 very well at Chepstow. And although he did take a drop in class last time, that really could have stagnated the horse's performance. I think, like Steve said, the horse will like the ground. And he's related to Saudia, among other horses. I did a video on his pedigree that people might want to check out on the channel for a more in-depth look at it. But he's definitely related to Saudia, the Willie Mullins horse that was going round quite well as a 4-year-old hurdler and throughout his career in Grade 1 hurdles. But to me, it's a shame Sergino's not running. Carjess, I don't really fancy that one. I remember looking at that one as well in the race in Ireland, before we race in Ireland, and there wasn't really enough on the dam side for me. I didn't fancy it. I didn't like it. So make of that what you will. But to me, if I've got to have a selection in the race, my selection in the race will have to be Salva. Each way, I suppose, at the price. But if he was to win, I wouldn't be surprised because he is a nice horse. And there's some in there that's flattered to deceive, I think, without the favourite. I think without the favourite in there, there's no outstanding candidate. And it will be a very interesting race, I think, the Triumph Hurdle. Right, I'm going to hand you back over to Steve now, who's going to take a look at the 3-mile novice hurdle on the day, the Albert Bartlett novices hurdle. Steve, it's over to you, sir.
On to the Albert Bartlett novices hurdle, a Grade 1 over 3 miles. So historically, I've not had the best of records in this race. So anyone listening or looking to follow my selections throughout the week, just bear in mind that for some reason, I just do not tend to ever get the winner of this race. It's strange, really, because I always tend to back these horses that are quite lightly raced, that look to have that touch of class about them. Yet it doesn't really pan out hard, and like anything, really, it has to stay the trip. And just usually, I go for these horses that's had like a couple of runs, that's bolted up somewhere, and looks like it could outclass the opposition, but it doesn't ever tend to pan out that way. So yeah, just bear that in mind. I have a terrible record in this, but anyway, I'll go on to the race and just have from my point of view and say what I see. So there's several horses in here, certainly from the UK, which have bypassed the Gallagher Novices Hurdle in favour of this, purely probably down to Ballyburn turning up in the Gallagher and obviously winning. So I can see why horses avoided him. Those horses are the likes of Captain Teague for Paul Nicholls, Gidley Park for Harry Fry. So those two horses for me are probably 2.5 mile horses, but they're stepping up here to 3 miles. So obviously there's a bit of a question mark over the trip on both of them, but they might well get it because they do look like potential staying types. Gidley Park for me has got that real class look about it, big strong horse. I'm surprised he never turned up, to be honest with you, in the Gallagher, but I wouldn't say he's without a chance here. He's going the right way. He's won 3 from 3 this season, and I do feel that he's probably got that little bit more class than Captain Teague, who in his own right has got a fair chance here. Of the Irish, obviously Dancing City won at DRF, and Reading Tommy Wrong won, beat Il Atlantique and Firefox several weeks before that in the rerun at Nace, I think it was. Reading Tommy Wrong was held up that day, and he seemed to mug, if that's the word you'd call it, he seemed to mug Il Atlantique up the run-in. And he didn't jump too well throughout, so it was a pretty impressive performance in the grand scheme of things. And Paul Townend's obviously chosen him over Dancing City and High Class Hero, so that's probably a pointer itself. Nicky Ensign's got one in here that's looked good this season, strong stayer, but again you have to question the stable's form, so I'd have to bypass him. Lecky Watson's a horse that I know a lot of shrewd people have tipped up for this race, but for me, he just struggle. Although he does look like a stayer, he just struggles to win races. So I just couldn't be with him myself. There's a couple of horses here, Jigginsdown. They've had a good record in the past in this race. Maybe not as much so recently, but they've always had horses that are around about hitting the money in this race in previous years. They've got a couple of big outsiders in this race that, they're the typical kind of horse that run well in this. They've had a good few runs. They're battle hardened. They might lack that little touch of class, but, they're the type of horses that tend to do well here. But yeah, if I'm giving my selections now, I'm going to go for 2 horses in here. And it's just purely down to a gut instinct, because I do think, I don't think nothing's really stand out, but I do see a lot of potential. So I'm going to go for Gidley Park because I like what I've seen. More workmanlike than anything last time, stepping up in trip, but I do think the horse got a big engine and a touch of class. So he's going to be one of my selections. The other horse, I'm going to stick with Reading Tommy Wrong, because I do feel that Firefox and Il Atlantique are fair horses. They have obviously, Il Atlantique ran a bit disappointing in the Gallagher Novice Hurdle, and Firefox ran okay in the Supreme. He was placed, but Reading Tommy Wrong obviously beat those two. And the Supreme and the Gallagher were stronger races than this, so obviously he's going to go there with a big chance. So yeah, those are my two selections for this race, because I do feel I need two. I could possibly need three or four, but I'm going to stick with those two anyway. Reading Tommy Wrong and Gidley Park for the Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle.
Fantastic audio, brilliant. 3 or 4 is never normally enough in this race as well. It is just that sort of race, isn't it? It's loads of horses tapped with potential, and normally some of these often do miss out in this race and go on and have perfectly reasonable careers. But I'm going to try and have a look at the race as well myself, because there's a couple in here that I like. I'm going to touch on start really with the ones I've already got an interest in, because some of them are quite nice. Lecky Watson is one, the Willie Mullins horse. I mean, to me, it's a very well-bred horse that. It's related to some good horses on the flat, like Adia, the UK Derby winner recently. It's also from the family of Annie Power, the German horse. I've got a mare called Anno Power. That's why I nearly said Anno Power as well on this line, who's been talked about for the mare's bumper this year at Aintree. That's related to this line as well. So I'm hoping Lecky Watson runs well. Interesting that Steve touched on the 2 Gigginstown runners there and said that they might be highly tried and they lack a bit of class. Normally he would be spot on, but this year they're quite well bred. I've watched Search for Glory go round 3 times now. It won well first time out when I had a little look at it, stuck it on a maybe list. It then really wasn't favoured by the weights on its next start. I thought it had to give weight away to a few useful horses in a Group 3. It then come out and won a Group 3 on its last start, Search for Glory did. And that is a nice horse. It's a very, very interestingly bred horse, without any shadow of a doubt. It's from the family of Remittance Man, who at his best was rated 172. There's also 142 rated in there. Treble Bob as well. 153 rated horse, trained by Tom Taff, called Tumbling Dice as well. So that one for me is an interesting chaser in the prospect. I've got it on a maybe list, Search for Glory, as well as Gidley Park as well. I've got Gidley Park on a maybe list as well, because that horse is actually from the family of Denman. Very, very promising line, that is. I've seen Polly Puttons in a few dam lines this year, 3rd or 4th dam. And this is the 3rd dam this time. But to me, though, if you look at the first dam of Gidley Park and the one after that, they've all flattened out about this mark, 130-ish. And I wasn't really that impressed when he won the Grade 2. Last time out, he didn't really improve his rating at all, if you believe the rating post. So that's why the horse is still only on a maybe list, Gidley Park. But yeah, very interesting race this is, without any shadow of a doubt. Captain Teague is probably a horse I've missed somewhere along the line. I think he's more than well bred enough, really, to be noted. He's got to novice hurdling there, and I've somehow missed him. So if he was to win this race, he might sneak on as a novice chaser, because there's already a 160 rated horse, Sky Pirate. He's a half brother to that. Sky Pirate by Midnight Legend, Captain Teague by Doyen. That's potential there, isn't there, for Captain Teague to be better than what he is. The dam as well, Dancing Bubble, she was rated 125 over hurdles. She a secured black type as well, 3rd in a 2009 novice handicap hurdle, a listed race for mares, and she was also 2nd in a listed bumper as well. The 2nd dam was rated 157. Kate's Charm, 157 over hurdles on her day. Grade 1 winner in 2002, where she won the Cleve Hurdle, that race now, a Grade 2. So that horse is quite unlucky, really, that I've not picked it up before. I've had a little look at it today, and I thought, yeah, not a bad horse, Captain Teague, on his day, to be fair to him. And if he was to win this race, I'd probably have to include him, unless he went to Aintree and got beat, did a stay-away fade. But yeah, interesting horse, Captain Teague. Of the others that I took a look at, really, I've looked at Johnny Who before. I wasn't really that impressed with that, like the stallion of it. So that's one that I'm sceptical of, really, in that race as well. Stellar Stories related to the storyteller. So again, that was a Grade 1 horse, wasn't it? At its best, rated 165. So again, Steve was right to touch on the Gigginstown horses this year, I think, because They are very nice horses as well. Very nice. But I'd have to stick with the one I've identified, Lecky Watson, in this race, I think. But Gidley Park, and I like the prices of all three of mine, to be honest. It's a sort of race I could easily chance a few in, as Steve is going to. So I probably will as well. We'll throw a few darts at the board in the 250 by the look of things between us. Right, it's time now for the feature race of the day, the blue ribbon event of the whole festival, the Cheltenham Gold Cup. May I just take this opportunity before we look at the Gold Cup to thank Steve Allpress for his time throughout the week. It's always very much appreciated. We've covered a lot of these festivals over the years at Cheltenham. This has been an interesting one. You know, more in some races for horses that haven't turned up, rather than ones that have. But that's beyond anybody's control, really, apart from the chosen few at the top. We just have to react and do the best we can. I think Steve's done a fantastic job this week. So, Steve, I'm going to let you hand over the baton to you again, sir. And this is Steve Allpress's preview of the 2024 Cheltenham Gold Cup.
So, on to the feature race on the final day of the festival, which is the Boodles Cheltenham Gold Cup, a Grade 1 over 3 miles, 2.5 furlongs. I'll start off with the current champion, Galopin de Champ. He's been to Cheltenham on 3 occasions, 2 of which he was victorious, and the other one, obviously, he come down at the final fence when he had the race at his mercy in the Turners against Bob Ollinger a couple of years ago. I think many will remember that one, unfortunately. Obviously, last year, he stepped up in trip and went to the Gold Cup. He was very impressive, put in a huge performance on that day. Both he and Braveman's Game, to be fair, put in massive performances. And, hopefully we'll see something pretty similar in this year's Gold Cup. Since the Cheltenham Gold Cup, Galopin de Champ, he was turned over by Fast or Slow, who's also in this year's Gold Cup. And earlier on this season, he was also turned over by Fast or Slow. He did get redemption over him, though, at DRF, although I don't think Fast or Slow connections will be too disappointed with the run on that occasion. They might see it as he might have lost the battle, but they haven't lost the war. Well, not yet anyway. Galopin de Champ, though, after the defeat earlier in the season, he then ran at Christmas time against Jerry Colomb at Leopardstown. Very impressive. One of the best staying performances I've seen for a long time. And then, obviously, as I mentioned, he went to DRF and beat Fast or Slow in a small field. Both horses ran to credit. Galopin de Champ just got the better of him. I think he is just a little bit more race fit on the day. It'll be very interesting between the two of them this time because although I would side with Galopin de Champ slightly, ever so slightly, I do think Fast or Slow is a big player. I think he's the one horse in the race that's capable of beating Galopin de Champ if Galopin de Champ isn't at his very, very best. The likes of Jerry Colomb, Braveman's Game, they're good horses in their own right, but I just feel they're a little bit below these two. Braveman's Game's obviously had a bit of a, I don't know if I'd say hit and miss season, but he's had a bit of a disappointing season. He's been second on 3 occasions. He was, he ran a good race first time up when he was second to Gentleman's Game. He obviously needed to run on that occasion. They then ran him too quickly for my liking. They went back to Haydock for the Betfair Chase. Very, very bad move, in my opinion. I just feel he's a better horse when he's run fresh, and he wasn't fresh on that occasion. And although he was second again, he didn't have the same spark about him. He didn't travel the same. He then had a few weeks break before the King George, where he ran with credit, he ran well, but again, he wasn't the same Braveman's Game that we saw in the King George last year. I do think now he's had that long break again, that'll be key to him. But once again, I think it's going to be a tall order to lower the colours of Galopin de Champ, and with Fast or Slow in there as well this year. it just could be that little bit more difficult for him. Jerry Colombe, he was a fair novice. A lot of people tipped him up for this race at the beginning of the season, but for me, the form of that last year's novice hasn't quite come up to scratch, and for me, he's looking more maybe for place money than looking to win the race. But that's just my view on Jerry Colombe. I think he's a fair horse, but just lacks that little bit of extra class of some of the others in here. Press, he's a fair horse. He's had his issues in the last year or so, but he's had a couple of comeback runs now. One where he beat Protectorat first time up. Then again, he was second at Ascot behind I think it was Pic Dory last time. But again, he never really looked like winning on that occasion. But it was over a trip that is possibly too short, and he's a better horse going left-handed. That's the way it looks anyway. There's a couple of stayers in here which people are pretty familiar with. Corrick Rambler, who won last year's Ultima and the Grand National, and Hewick, that come with that late surge to win the King George on Boxing Day. Again, they're both strong stayers, but I do think they lack that little bit of class of these horses towards the head of the market. So I'm gonna keep it nice, short and sweet. But I think it comes down to a match between Galloping de Champ or Fast or Slow. I really do think it's going to be what horse turns up A1 on the day, because I do think, as much as I do think Galloping de Champ is slightly the better horse when at his best, I do think the difference in price is a little bit too wide between them. Although, based on the run we've seen from Galloping de Champ around Christmas time, I can clearly understand why he's as short as he is. I backed him for this race straight after last year's Gold Cup, thinking he was a certainty. Now I'm looking at it, I purely do believe he's only got one rival really to turn over, and that's Fast or Slow from the Martin Brazil stable. I think it's a very good horse. It'll be a very interesting race, the Gold Cup. I'm looking forward to it. But yep, I'm going to go for Galloping de Champ, slightly over Fast or Slow, but I would not be surprised if it was the other way round. So yeah, that's my view anyway on the Gold Cup.
Thank you very much, Steve, for the preview of the Blue Ribbon event this year on the last day of the 2024 Cheltenham Festival, the Gold Cup. An absolutely thrilling racing prospect. It's always a fantastic spectacle. We've got a warm order this year in the shape of last year's winner, Gallopin de Champ, and he surely looks a tough nut to crack. Me personally, I was looking forward to Shishkin taking his chance in this race, but unfortunately, that's, along with many other Nicky Henderson trained horses, isn't allowed to happen. So for me, that's definitely taken the edge off the race for me again. But Fast or Slow, I'm sure, will prove a tough nut to crack. He's beaten Gallopin de Champ twice in Ireland, as Steve has already touched on, and the form. And I have actually identified Fast or Slow as a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old chaser in France. He was a very well-bred horse. I noticed him. He was one of the ones I first noticed on a Reprieve Media CIC racing in the jumps in that year in France. The dam was actually rated 142 herself over hurdles. She was no mug herself at all. She was finished third in a Grade 3 in 2008, where she secured that rating. She won other races as well, over hurdles and fences in France, pop over. And she's for herself was from a very decent family on the flat, Wildenstein flat family. You know, she was rated 142, but she's rated to 116 rated horse on the flat called Prairie Star, 114 rated dam on the flat called Pacific Rim. You know, these horses are decent flat horses. You know, it's no surprise to me as a 3-year-old that this horse was winning races over obstacles. No surprise to me whatsoever. I mean, I'm looking at the form of Prairie Star now. He won a Group 3 in 2010. the Prix de la Conde, he was third in the Group 1. Criterium de Saint-Cloud, he was second. He won the Group 2 Prix d'Arcart of 2011. You know, this is a fast or slow. Certainly not slow, is he? Looking at the form of him and the pedigree of him. No surprise to me that he's doing what he's doing. Pacific Rim was the other one I was mentioning that was rated 114 and only 4 starts, according to the Racing Post, winner of the Group 2 Prix de Maire of 2013. Yeah, so there's only got 4 recorded runs on the Racing Post. Poussin was rated higher than all of them, rated 121 on the flat. He was second in a Prix Saint-Hilary. A Prix d'Espagne, a Group 1 race, you know, on the flat. Group 1 flat pedigree this horse has got, fast or slow, and that's why I was always sort of chanced it. It's been very rewarding for people who have chanced it in the past. Can it be rewarding again on the biggest day of all, the Gold Cup day? Of the rest, we've got Brave Man's Game, who just hasn't won now. I'm looking at in 5 starts at least. He's pay your money and take your chance. With the Paul Nicholls trained runner, Correct Rambler, last year's Grand National winner, to me, will always lack a little bit of class for this race, but it seems not a good, honest horse who seems sure to give his run in. The King George runner, Hewick, the King George winner, Hewick. He is unfortunately another non-runner, from this time from the Shark Hanlon Yard. The 2 Rabcore horses, Gentleman's Game and Jerry Colombe. I don't really fancy either of them two, if I'm honest. L'Homme Pressé, he's had his form boosted today. We sit here at around 5:15 on the Wednesday, with Protectorat winning earlier. L'Homme Pressé defeated Protectorat earlier this season. I think L'Homme Pressé probably would be the best UK hope in this race, I should imagine. Monkfish, the old boy, bounced back with a good win last time out over hurdles. Missed the Stayers hurdle to take up his option in the Gold Cup, age 10. It was just a shame the horse missed that campaign, wasn't it, when the year after he won the Sun Alliance chase, where he was a superb horse then, wasn't he? Nassalam looks to be using this as a prep run for the Grand National. Hugely impressive Welsh National winner. And the real whacker to me looks a bit out of his depth, unfortunately. The Patrick Neville trained runner. But to me, it's an interesting race without any shadow of a doubt. And I'm just looking purely at the odds and the form. My selection in the race will be fast or slow. I mean, it's looking like really the best people could hope for if they were to back the horse each way was to get their money back. That to me in a race like this is never a bad option. He's got a shot at a victory, and if the horse gets a place, then he should go off at a fifth of the odds, 5-1. If he goes off a bit short than that, then your odds on a place, which I don't really like doing. But to me, the favourite will be a formidable nut to crack on the day, I think, Galopin de Champs. But like I said yesterday, if they're smaller than 2-1, then people really, really, in my view, should never get involved. Now, that was proved today, really, with the downfall of brighter days ahead in the Mares Novice Hurdle, wasn't it, earlier today? Fascinating racing prospect, the Gold Cup, as always. Right, we're going to preview one more race, I think. We're going to take a look at the Mares Chase, open race for mares over 2 mile 4 furlongs, Grade 2. I'm going to hand you over now to Steve Allpress, who is going to preview the Grade 2 Mares Chase at the Cheltenham Festival. Steve, it's over to you.
So, I'm going to go now to the Mrs. Paddy Power Mares Chase, a Grade 2 over 2.5 miles. So, I'll start with the Willie Mullins horse with Paul Townend on board. She was runner-up in last year's race, Allegory de Vassy. So, Allegory de Vassy, she's had 3 runs this season. I actually think the last run was her best of this season anyway. On her seasonal reappearance, although she won, I wasn't visually impressed with her. Then next time out, she's been well turned over by Gordon Elliott's mare, Riviere de Tel, who's also in the lineup here. I actually thought that day that Allegory de Vassy was finished. She looks to be a horse to me that's a little bit inconsistent, doesn't always show her best. although her form figures do look relatively solid. As I said before, she looked a lot better last time, but I do have this niggling thing in the back of my mind that she can throw in a bad run. And obviously in this race, she's going to have to be at her best, because there's a couple of fair mares in here against her, one of which is her stable companion, Dino Blue, who was beaten herself last year in the Grand Annual, but since then she's gone on and she's gone from strength to strength. She's ran in open company against some really good horses that have been contesting in the Queen Mother Champion Chase, the likes of Captain Guinness, who she's seen off. She's been behind El Fabiolo this season, and she looks a really good horse. She looks like she's improved to me. The only question mark with her is the trip. She's going to be stepping up in trip. I always had this thing last season that Dino Blue did not want to go further than 2 miles. But now when I watch her run, she seems to be seeing out the 2 mile trip a lot stronger than she did last season. So I'm in 2 minds with her. I just can't decide whether I think she'll get it or not, because I do think on ability, I do think she's the best horse in the race. But there is that niggling doubt about the trip for me. So again, until she runs, we're not going to know. Obviously, the yard feel that she's the best horse, and they're quite confident she'll get the trip. So maybe just take that on board, you know. They were right with Lossiemouth earlier in the week. Obviously, she stepped up for the first time and she got the job done well. They could well be the same with Dino Blue. She's a classy horse and she's a worthy favourite. And it's only the trip really that's the question mark. Of the others in here, Limerick Lace, she looked a fair horse this season. Quite impressive last time. Bit of a tail swisher, but, you know, a fair horse, lightly raced. A lot of shrewd people have tipped Bride's Hill in this race. She's won her last 3. Hasn't quite been in the same company as horses like Dino Blue and Allegory Devassi, but she's a decent horse. And, you know, if there's any chinks in any of the armour of the other horses towards the head of the market, she might be one to pounce. Riviere de Tel, she's a bit of a hit and miss horse for me. She seems to be a horse that's always running in the first 2. She's either first or second. I think she's come second on 4 occasions out of her last 5 starts. A couple runs ago, or several runs ago, she was very impressive when beating Allegory Devassi, but she doesn't always show her best. But if she does turn up, she's going to be a player as well for sure. But Riviere de Tel has been a horse that has been a bit of a disappointment when the going gets tough. So she's not one you can rely on, but, you know, on her best form, she can put a good run in. Another horse that's very inconsistent for me that's in the race is Harmonoia Maker. She's been a horse that I heard little whispers about her being like having an engine like Apple's Jade. This was in her novice hurdle campaign last season, and she's looked good in some races and then disappointing in others. There's been a couple of races this year where she's jumped violently out to her left, so maybe going left-handed might benefit her. But again, it's a long shot, and I think her price 40 to 1 roughly. I think that just indicates kind of what chance she has. So anyway, I'm going to go in here for Dino Blue. I'm going to take the chance that she's going to get the trip, just because I can't trust Allegory Devassi. I think those are the 2 best mares in the race in terms of ability, but I do think Allegory Devassi is a little bit unreliable when it comes to the crunch. This time last year, I thought she had a major chance. I did tip up Impervious for this race last year, but before that, Allegory Devassi did look bomb-proof. For me now, she does look a little bit fragile and suspect. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Dino Blue, her stable companion. So Dino Blue is my selection for the Paddy Power Mares Chase.
An absolutely brilliant preview as ever there of the Paddy Power Mares Chase. By Steve Allpress again there on day 4 of the double handful coverage of the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. We're approaching the home straight now. I mean, this race, the Mares Chase, I'm going to include it in my any other business really, because for me, the race is all about one horse, Allegory Devassi. She's a mare I've been with really for quite a while now, since I saw her beat subsequent Group 1 winner Brandy Love over hurdles in a Grade 3. I looked at the pedigree over that day, realised she was related to a very good horse on the flat in Lawrence, the old Colbert flat mare, multiple Group 1 winner. I think she won the Champion Stakes, the Irish Champion Stakes. I think she won Group 1 races in France as well as the UK. She might have even won Group 1s as well. But to me, like Steve said, she can be frighteningly inconsistent. But again, I think at her best, I think she beats this lot. Dino Blue, he's related to Blue Sari. I remember that one going round. And to me, Dino Blue has proved a better horse than Blue Sari. But to me, Allegory Devassi, I think, getting the £2 off the JP McManus own mare, that could be crucial in this race. I don't think there's a lot between them off level weights, if I was to be honest with you. But with Dino Blue carrying 11.7 and Allegory Devassi carrying 11.5. It looks to be an interesting race. Another one I mentioned is Limerick Lace. Just for the fact that Sway, the dam of Limerick Race, has had 3 runners this week at the Cheltenham Festival. She's given birth to three foals, and they've all ran at the Cheltenham Festival. Sway herself was no mug. She was rated 137 over hurdles, a listed winner in France in 2009. In fact, she won 3 Lortoy listed 3-year-old hurdles back in 2009 before coming to England for a chase career, which culminated really in a couple of novice chase victories, the best of which was lower than her hurdle mark. But she was a good French hurdler, and this one, Limerick Lace, is the third to go round. She's the top rated of 153. The other two, I liked what you're thinking, and I know the way you're thinking. They both went round earlier in the week, rated 142 and 141. So Sway is a solid mare, and Limerick Lace seems certain to have some sort of a chance. But I do think the top 2 are the 2 to beat in this race. The rest of them, well, they are what they are, fairly exposed, I think. They've been going round quite a while. A few of them, Carroll's Pass is one that's quite younger than the rest. But to me, I think Amy Murphy's mare has a fair bit to find on the figures, although she is by a nice stallion over the jumps in authorised. But to me, this race is all about Allegory Devassi for me. Any other business really only surrounds one horse in the county hurdle this year. King of Kingsfield is the name of the horse, Group 1 horse in a handicap, yeah. It was actually second in the Group 1 Royal Bond Novices hurdle this season behind Farron Glory. It then came out and beat Mirrors West by 6 lengths. Mirrors West is Fernie Brothers' half-brother, who was well beaten by Fun last week, but came into this hurdle campaign with a high reputation. And this horse, King of Kingsfield, beat it by 6 lengths. It then was 14 lengths behind Ballyburn, went third in the novice hurdle in February. Rating 140 at its best, beaten by 14 lengths, but 7 lengths behind was the Supreme Novices hurdle winner, Slade Steele. This horse a further 7 lengths behind those 2. And this horse, rather than contest the novice hurdles this year, has gone for the county hurdle at 2.10. King of Kingsfield. It's a shame I don't think people, again, are going to be able to get on it each way. It's 5-1. So it's looking like really, hopefully it will drift a bit and then people will get a little bit odds against a place. But to me, that would be a very interesting runner in that handicap. King of Kingsfield. That is my only other business for the day, really. So I am done. So what I will do now is hand you back to Steve Allpress for his final batch of selections in this year's double handful coverage on Reprieve Media CIC. Steve, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for finding the time to do these previews. It's always very much appreciated. And for your final batch of selections, Steve, it's over to you.
So anyway, now it's selection time. I think it's tricky card. And there's nothing that I clearly fancy head and shoulders above anything else on this final day. However, I'm going to continue to give the Napa next best selection and just go on the horses I most fancy for the race, even though I'll be playing a couple of horses per race. My Nap selection will be Galloping de Champ in the Gold Cup. I think it's going to come down to the two horses I mentioned, and I'm just hoping that he's on his A game and he can get the job done. So he is my selection. Galloping de Champ for the Gold Cup is my Nap. And my next best, although they've got a huge cloud over him of the well-being of him, Sir Gino in the Triumph Hurdle. I'm so confident in this horse leading up to Cheltenham. I've gone a little bit cold on him of late, but I am going to stick with him. I'm just hoping that he can swerve the virus or whatever the yard are suffering with, and he can turn up and run to what he ran on trials day. And I think if he performs like that again, I think he'll take all the beating. So my next best selection is Sir Gino in the Triumph Hurdle. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve, for your selections on this final day. It's just such a shame that for whatever reason the Nicky Henderson horses haven't been allowed to run, and Steve's next best selection, Sir Gino, will not take his chance in the opening race on the fourth day of the Triumph Hurdle, which means Steve, unfortunately, is down to just one selection, which I will give at the end, just after I've run through mine. Busy day for me tomorrow, especially in the Albert Bartlett. The first race, 1:30 in the Triumph, I've got a chance, Salva. You know, he was one of my top juvenile hurdles. He's unbeaten. He's turned up. And also, unfortunately, Peking Opera's also turned up on the back of a heavy fall when well beaten last time out. Fourth in the Irish Derby, higher rated on the flat than over hurdles. Not what you want heading into a Grade 1 race. Loads to do, and I probably will just not even entertain putting anything on him. But he is going round. In the 2:10, the County Hurdle, King of Kingsfield, very interesting runner for me. 2:50, Albert Bartlett. Well, I've got four that I've got an interest in this race now. I started with three and now I've got four. I've had to add Captain Teague to the list, along with Search for Glory, Gidley Park and Lecky Watson. The only definite at the minute with the video made at the minute with him is Lecky Watson. So the other three will need a big performance or a victory. The 3:30, the Gold Cup, the blue ribbon event of the week, I will try fast or slow. And in the 4:10, the Mare's Chase, Allegory Devassi, and I will have to give her as my best chance of the day, hoping to defeat the mare owned by Ireland's biggest gambler, arguably two, if you include Limerick Lace. What could possibly go wrong? A quick recap of Steve's selections for just in case people miss them. Well, it's selection, really. It's Gallopin de Champ is obviously his nap of the day, as it's his only selection. In the feature race of the day, the Blue Ribbon, the Cheltenham Gold Cup, due to his other selection being a non-runner, which was Sir Gino in the Triumph Hurdle. Well, we've got through the week unscathed, I think, everybody. What a fantastic week of horse racing it has been. May I just take this opportunity to thank whoever's listened to any of our content over the last 4 or 5 days. Thank you very much for supporting the project. Thank you very much for supporting the channel and the stream. It's all been very much appreciated. I hope you've enjoyed all the content, most importantly. And it's been a fantastic week. I'm sure you'll agree. Tinged with a few horses that we would like to have ran, not ran. But that's life. So I'm going to leave it here. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll just, on behalf of Steve Allpress, say thank you very much. And I've been Paul Newman. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this week. Have a fantastic day on Gold Cup Day. May good luck to everybody. May everybody's horses and everybody's connections come back safe and sound after what promises to be a very eventful day's racing. Take care, everybody, and look after yourselves. Goodbye. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for listening and taking part this week. It's all been very much appreciated. A fantastic day of racing, hopefully in store to end this week's Cheltenham Festival. Can I just take the opportunity back now, live myself here? It's just after midday, so we've got an hour and a half or so till the first race. Just to remind everybody that I actually got the time wrong for Allegory Devassi. She does not run at 4:10. She, in fact, runs at 4:50. That's just my mistake. I completely forgot about the Fox Hunter's Chase. Right, it's about time, I think, to end this stream. I'll just thank Steve Allpress for finding the time to carry out these live streams. We've done them now, I think, well, at least since 2018, Since 2018, because we played a clip from that year in Double Handful Gold on the Reprieve Media CIC YouTube channel earlier. So it's been, this is probably at least the 7th one that we've done then. It should be a fantastic day's racing. Steve, thank you very much, as always. All things crossed, all things being equal, if we're both in good shape and still on this planet next year, and they're still putting on National Hunt Racing for our enjoyment, myself and Steve will be hope to be back for next year's Double Handful edition of what will be the 2025 Cheltenham Festival. What will we be talking about then? Ballyburn and his heroic Arkle attempt, maybe. And a clash with Ballyburn versus Constitution Hill, maybe, in the Champion Hurdle. One thing's for certain, there's always something to look forward to. Today should be a fantastic day. But for now, I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you very much again, everybody. You take care, all of you, and look after yourselves. Goodbye.